What's up YouTube? It's Samara. If you are new to this channel, welcome to the channel where you get Samara that world, get it, some more of that world. And today we are going to do a little bit different of a video. I am going to be interviewing my friend who traveled with me for 2 weeks in Vietnam, and she's actually done a little bit of traveling on her own. The reason why I want to do these people of color talks is because my goal with this channel is to encourage not only women to travel solo, but to also encourage more people of color to travel. And the reason why I wanted to do this, or what kind of inspired this, was actually a Facebook status that a friend of mine had posted. She had done a solo travel trip on her own, and she is also considered a person of color, and while she was traveling, she said that she felt very uncomfortable because basically the backpacker community that she encountered was mainly white people. So as a person of color, she felt like she didn't really fit in. And it's funny because before that, I had never really thought about it. I'm so used to being around white people in my own hometown. I'm also half white, so I'm used to interacting with a lot of white people on one side of my family, obviously. So it hadn't really dawned on me until she pointed it out, and then I saw it and I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Like, most of the people that I have met are white. Not that I personally have a problem with that, but I know that that's not necessarily the case for every person of color. Some people of color may feel very uncomfortable in the backpacker community because there isn't enough diversity. So I thought to myself, well, what if I can encourage more people of color to travel, so that way the community changes, and as it grows and changes, more people of color do travel, so that way when a person of color does decide to travel and they're in that kind of backpacker community, that it's more diverse. I am essentially trying to encourage diversity within the backpacker community. So the way that I'm going to do that is to start actually interviewing people of color who have traveled and get their experiences, their stories, and it's going to be very real. We're going to talk about the positives and the negatives, and not everyone's going to have the same experience. It's going to just depend on the person and their worldview. My hope is with these interviews that if you're a person of color who's considered traveling and maybe you haven't taken that leap because you are afraid of maybe being uncomfortable or safety issues, that my talks inspire you because you're seeing that other people of color do travel and that it's ultimately worth it for them to travel. And the only way that we can make a change in the backpacker community is by continuing to travel and to encourage our friends that are also people of color to travel, because ultimately it's up to us to change the community. And the way we do that is to spread the word that travel is worth it and that it has a lot of benefits despite the potential cons. So anyways, I'm done with that spiel. Let's get into the video. Hopefully you guys like it. If you do, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. All right, you guys, so today we have Sarah here. As I said, she came with me on my 2-week trip to Vietnam, and we are being socially distant by wearing our masks. So I'm gonna ask her questions that she's going to answer, and I'm gonna look at my phone to remind myself what those are. But yeah, let's get into it. So, Sari, so how many countries have you visited, and what are those countries?
I visited 7 countries, and those include Mexico, Guatemala, England, Spain, and France, Vietnam, and Japan.
What was your first experience traveling like?
My first experience traveling was as a kid with a family, but as an adult, I went to countries that drew me in due to their historical value, or just countries I took interest in more because of their past or history.
Okay, and do you feel like you had a good time traveling?
Yeah, I think so. I know I went very in depth in England. I went to spots that I felt were meaningful to me.
And what about your experience in Vietnam and Japan?
I would say Vietnam was similar in that way because I did a lot of research into Vietnam War history and how France preoccupied Vietnam beforehand. So going there and seeing it in person and meeting the people made me feel more connected to them. I think you saw that.
Yeah, I did, yeah. Yeah, but what about Japan? How was your experience there?
So I didn't do any prior research to Japan. I just showed up unprepared. I got lost there. I didn't know the language. I didn't know any culture. That's a whole other conversation, maybe being prepared before going to a country. So I didn't feel as connected there. And I was alone too, but I didn't, it was fun. I just wasn't as attached, maybe? I can't explain.
Emotionally attached because you didn't know the history? Okay. Yeah. All right. So in general, you've had good experiences traveling?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And did you ever feel unsafe while you were traveling? Solo or with people?
Yeah, only a few times. When I was taking a taxi by myself from an airport at night with another man driving, with the driver, so it's just me and the driver, and late night walks, like walking at 4 a.m. to a train station to get to an airport. I remember feeling scared.
When did you do that, or where was that?
That was in France when I was trying to get to the train and waiting at the train station for the train to the airport. And I just remember it was dark and there were groups of men staring at me, and me and another solo female traveler. We just looked at each other and we went to stand next to each other just for protection. That was scary.
Yeah, that's a little scary. Why were you walking at 4 in the morning? Why didn't you just take a cab there?
The hostel I was staying at was in walking distance to the train station, so I was like, I'll just walk.
Okay, so you took a risk, okay?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if you guys should. I was like, take your risks accordingly, but yeah. Okay, so, but no one ever approached you or anything while that happened, right? It just looked sketchy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Moving on. So, did you feel there was a lack of diversity amongst the travelers you would meet? And if so, why do you think that is?
Definitely. I rarely came across any Latino or African Americans or people of color traveling. It was mainly Caucasian people from the US or Europe.
Okay,
Or even lack of Asian people, now that I think of it.
Yeah, I didn't really meet a lot of Asian people while I was traveling either.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, maybe a couple. Yeah, but there wasn't like that many.
As to why you were asking.
Yeah, why do you think that is? Like, why do you think there's less minorities or people of color traveling in general?
So I would like to think it may be money, because we know that socioeconomically Latino and African American people may have less money. It's just the truth. But then we bring up Asian people, so I don't know if it's true. I don't know if I should say that, but anyhow. Okay, so I have talked to Latino people and African American people that don't express interest in travel. Why, I'm not sure. I think it's not something they prioritize.
Do you think that's cultural, or why do you think they don't prioritize it? Sorry, you guys, I'm gonna keep doing this to my mask. It's annoying me. Okay, anyways. Yeah, why do you think they don't prioritize it?
If money has to do with it, it may be that they are prioritizing basic needs, food, shelter.
But if money isn't an issue, do you think that I don't know if it's the money thing.
Yeah,
I don't know. It might be the money thing. I don't know if it's that they're just not feeling like they want to travel. And maybe it's the idea that they think it's expensive. Would you say that it's possible to travel relatively cheaply in some countries?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And I think some people don't know that.
Yeah, they don't know that.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of why I'm trying to do all this, is to get people to know you can travel pretty cheaply.
It's mainly the plane ticket, if anything, but besides that, it's doable.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm curious if you think it's like cultural at all, or if it's just the money. It doesn't, I mean, these are just our opinions, right? So if you feel like it's the money, then that's fine.
Maybe mindset, maybe just preferring to stay home, or it takes a lot of work to go travel, a lot of research beforehand, preparation, time off from work. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys want to comment below, if you're a person of color and you haven't felt the need to travel, would love to know why, just so we can have a better idea of that. Okay, do you feel like being a person of color has affected your travels in any way, and if so, how?
I'm going to answer no. I don't think me being a person of color has I don't think has inhibited me to travel.
But do you feel like when you were traveling, when you were like interacting with people that were from other countries, if you being a person of color affected that, or it didn't really matter, like you were still having a good experience regardless?
I think I still had a good experience regardless. People that were traveling that I met were open-minded. I never felt rejected or
like people were racist or anything?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I never felt that way, so no, I would say no.
So you had a good time. Okay,
yeah.
Good. Okay, awesome. So the fact that you're a person of color really didn't affect like your experience in a negative way. Okay, cool. What do you feel the value is in traveling, and why do you think it's important for people in general to travel, and specifically people of color? So that's about 3 questions. What's the value of traveling?
What's the value of traveling?
Why should more people in general travel, and why should people of color travel?
I think the value of traveling is that it expands your worldview. It takes you outside of what you're normally used to doing, and the people you're used to interacting with in your circle, there's another world, maybe bubble, yeah. And then you're surprised. I was always surprised at finding how nice people really are.
Mm-hmm.
I just meet very nice people willing to just hang out, just being open-minded.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
Good. Why do you feel like people in general should travel more, and specifically people of color?
Okay, so I think traveling or made me care more about international affairs. So I like to check the news, like the BBC, and I would say, for example, Brexit. I would just read about it, merely read about it, and not really care. I would just glimpse and look away. But after going to England and interacting with some British people in Asia, they would express how much tension it's caused in their country. So now I just take extra interest in topics like that, even other topics that maybe not political topics, but maybe tragedies or things that occur overseas and not just in my bubble.
Within the U.S., yeah.
Yeah,
I
in
agree.
the US, exactly.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think like I've definitely gotten more invested in other countries' history and politics by going there and talking to the people there. I think that's like the best way to actually get a feel for what's actually going on in a country, because I think the media can be biased, and I think like ultimately the best way to get an idea of what's really going on is talking to the people there. And then yeah, so in terms of like people of color, do you feel like there's a reason why they should specifically travel?
I'd say for the same reason. You know, you get out of your comfort zone and you maybe are surprised at how nice people really are. It gives you world experience, and I think even though not everyone has the opportunity, it's something, if there's a window is there to be able to do it, they should. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, do you have any final thoughts for people of color or women who might be considering traveling either solo or with other people but are hesitant to do so?
So I'll answer this in two parts. So final thoughts, something I did want to bring up that we talked about, we had a conversation about this, is I learned a lot about my identity as an American. This is kind of a weird topic. It's hard for me to explain. I'd say being a person of color in the US, sometimes you forget you're an American until you're overseas, and then someone asks you, "Where are you from?" And you're "Oh, I'm an American." And then you get back, and it's, well, why do as a person of color, I feel more of a second class American? I don't know.
Yeah, like a second class citizen. I get it. Yeah.
This might not be true. It may be something I just perceive of myself, that I'm a second-class American, and it may be maybe someone else makes me feel that way, but then you realize those two things, that they believe that, and then you start to believe that it may be a lie, that you are actually an American.
Yeah.
So you hold the same rights as any other American.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. Yeah, I get what you mean. It's like, in the U.S., you feel like you're a second-class citizen, and that's not for every person of color, but some people of color may feel like they're second-class citizens, or that they're not, like, true Americans, right? But when you go out into the world, you realize how American you really are, and not just because, like, you have these American beliefs or values that you realize are different than people from other countries, but also because, like, you have all of the same privileges that other Americans do, and that comes from your passport. Like, as an American, you have so many privileges to be able to go travel to countries that like other people from other countries don't have. So yeah, I think I agree with you. Like, you get to realize how really American you are when you travel. Yeah. So, and that's just us, we're American, obviously. Like, it's gonna be different for someone in a different country, but hopefully we'll be interviewing people from other countries that are people of color as well. So
oh, and then I think you talked about solo female travel.
yeah, because you're a woman. Obviously, yeah.
Sometimes it does take a little courage. You might have to push yourself. Samara is naturally that's not to kiss your butt. He's a very naturally assertive person. I'm not. I'm more maybe reserved. I don't know. We're just different. It's not that. But I had to maybe push myself, and it might take you to just be, I don't know, mental courage to be able to do it on your own. Because it can be just a little scary, but you'll meet other solo travelers. And that's where you're, oh, I'm not alone. There's other people alone. You're really not alone. And it's good to be alone sometimes. Being alone is not bad.
Yeah, I agree. No, and I agree. Like, I think it's good that people hear your perspective too. Like, exactly that personality difference. Like, not everyone's going to be like me. So, yeah, getting that perspective from someone else is important. So, do you have any final thoughts on what you want people to understand about your perspective as a person of color traveling? And if you don't have any final thoughts, that's okay. But if you have any final thoughts about your perspective as a person of color traveling in the world, then here's your time to say it.
Just that people are friendly, maybe different in other countries, and if you feel maybe, oh, I'm gonna go there alone as a foreigner, that they might be more welcoming than you'd expect. That's really only it.
Okay, so you're basically saying your final thoughts is that you would encourage minorities or people of color to travel because they may end up having a lot more of an enjoyable experience than they might originally think.
Yeah,
Okay.
alone, solo.
Okay, sweet, awesome. Okay, well, that is all we have for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe as always, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.
Bye.